The way we lead impacts the way people live. This world needs truly human leadership.
The message I want to send to you is business can be the most powerful force for good in the world if we simply knew how to care for the people we had the privilege of leading.
I'm Brent Stewart, your host. Thanks for listening. This podcast is an outreach of Barry-Wehmiller. You can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Barry-Wehmiller, and find our podcasts, articles, and videos at trulyhumanleadership.com. Barry-Wehmiller CEO Bob Chapman in 2023 spoke to more than 80 different groups, virtually or in person. He spoke to people in the manufacturing industry. He spoke to people in the construction industry. He spoke to educational institutions. He spoke at a UN forum. All these different places to share our message of truly human leadership. Because we know, like as we say at the beginning of the podcast, the way we lead impacts the way people live. Business can be a powerful force for good if it only cared about the lives that it touched. So our message of truly human leadership, treating everyone as if they matter, is very important to Bob. And he tries to get it out there in front of anybody he can. On this episode of the podcast, we want to bring you a speech Bob did back in October of 2023 to business leaders at Calvin University in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Hopefully this will give you a little inspiration as we start out the new year. So here's Barry-Wehmiller CEO, Bob Chapman.
Thank you. A Episcopal preacher once said to me, tell people what you're going to tell them, and then tell them and remind them of what you told them. So the message is simple today. We as leaders have an opportunity to heal the brokenness of the world if we simply know how to care about the people we have the privilege of leading. It's called truly human leadership. Just call it people-centric leadership, leadership focused on people. But Simon Sinek came in and saw it, and he said, he was an anthropologist, and he said, no, this is truly human leadership. This is the way we are called to lead others. But you can't ask people to be leaders. You've got to teach them how to be leaders. And it takes skills and courage to care. So I'm going to walk you through this journey. My granddaughter, about 5 years ago, graduated from in Aspen, Colorado. And at the graduation at the Aspen Music Tent, as each child walked up to get their diploma, the families cheered and screamed in joy for this child getting a diploma. And Aspen High School is considered one of the better high schools in the state of Colorado. As my granddaughter walked up to get her diploma, I had tears in my eyes as opposed to joy in my heart. And let me share with you why. The world that we live in today, and again, just for background, I speak in every part of society. I'm a businessman, but I speak in religious organizations, I speak in hospitals, I spoke to Congress, I spoke to the military, I spoke to the United Nations, and I speak all over the world. This is an issue in every part of our society, not just business, okay? Nonprofits, hospitals, education. Today, why would I want my granddaughter to go out into a world where 88% of all people feel they work for an organization that does not care about them? Why would you want that for your kids other than to get them off your payroll to get a job, okay? 3 out of 4 people in this country are disengaged in what they're doing. When I talk to CEOs of organizations, I say, you're all worried about the cost of health care? You are the problem. 74% of all illnesses are chronic. The biggest cause of chronic illness is stress, and the biggest cause of stress is work. There's a 20% increase in heart attacks on Monday mornings when people have to go back to work. Okay? Jeffrey Pfeiffer of Stanford, a leading author, who quotes us in his book, recent book called Dying for a Paycheck, and he doesn't mean anxious to get it. He estimates we're killing 120,000 people a year of work-related stress. When I was educated, undergraduate Indiana and graduate Michigan, I was never told, I never heard, never studied that the way I would run Barry-Wehmiller would affect people's marriage and their relationship with their children. I thought the way I ran my business was totally independent of the way people live our lives. But 90% of the feedback we get when we teach people to become leaders in Barry-Wehmiller University is how it affects their marriage and their relationship with their kids. So again, picture parents going home from our companies with stress, worried about getting laid off, not being treated with respect. They go home and they face the issues of raising children and having a good marriage and living in our communities. We've drained them of their energy, and we have TGIF so people can have a beer and try and kill the pain on Friday. At the end of this speech, you're going to understand why I imagine a day where we have TGIM. Thank goodness it's Monday. Get away from the kids, the spouse, and get back to a place where I genuinely enjoy being with people. 58% of all people would trust a stranger before they would trust their boss. And this is not good. I don't know how many of you are leaders and have people under your care, but 65% of all people in this country would give up a salary increase if they could fire their boss. Why are we glad that these children, these precious children we bring into this world, get a job? Why are we glad that when people graduate from this university, they get a job when there's an 88% chance that their life and joy is not going to be possible? So what our society is suffering from is leadership malpractice. We don't have leaders in any part of our society who know how to embrace the profound responsibility of the men and women in their care and send them home knowing they matter. Tom Friedman recently wrote an article in the New York Times, and he described it as a poverty of dignity. Not a poverty of money, a poverty of dignity. And when people don't feel valued, he said, they feel used. They go home at night feeling humiliated. And when they feel humiliated, you'll see anger and unrest like you've never seen before. And he quotes Nelson Mandela. What are we seeing in this country? In our homes, our communities, we're seeing a great deal of anxiety. We have the most prosperous economy in our history, and we have the highest level of depression and anxiety and suicide we've ever had. And nobody can figure, we think it's social media, we think it's drugs. It's right here in this room. If everybody in this room would walk out and look at the people they had the privilege of leading, we could dramatically change and deal with the issues. We don't need any presidential candidate, any governor, any mayor. We don't need them to fix the problems. We can fix them themselves. And that's the journey we've been on. So again, the idea of this poverty of dignity, not poverty of money, that's what we need to address in this world. So I think the message I want to send to you is business can be the most powerful force for good in the world if we simply knew how to care for the people we had the privilege of leading. I was interviewed by Washington University professors a few years ago, organizational development professors, and they said to me, after an hour-and-a-half interview, they said to me, Bob, you're the first CEO we've ever talked to that's never talked about your product. And I paused a moment and I said, we've been talking about our product for the last hour and a half. It's our people. I won't go to my grave proud of the big capital equipment we build. I'll go to my grave proud of the people who did that. That completely caught them off guard. Business professors in a major institution. I want you to remember this. The way we run our business affects the way our people go home and treat their spouse and their kids and behave in our communities. So leadership is a profound responsibility. Again, I look back on my education, my traditional business education, undergraduate in accounting from Indiana, MBA from Michigan, Price Waterhouse. I took management classes, got a management degree, and I got a job in management. What did I think I was supposed to do? I was supposed to manage people. Name anybody in your life you can manage. Name anybody in your life that wants to be managed. Why do we so the word management to me, from my career, means the manipulation of others for your success. Leadership is the stewardship of the lives that you have the privilege of leading. I was taught to view people as objects. I needed them for my success. I needed accountants, engineers, production workers, hourly workers, labor. All those words we describe, people, I needed for my success. I was a nice guy, but I was a traditional guy, and I was being successful. And success in our society is defined as money, power, and position. Doesn't matter how you get it as long as it's legal, because then you can write checks to charity and everybody will say you're a wonderful person. The Aspen Institute invited a New York Times author, writer to come out to Aspen and talk to the donors to the Aspen Institute. And he said, thank you for your contributions to the Aspen Institute. We appreciate it. But I have one question for you. How did you make your money? And they booed him out of the room. We have a society focused on monetary wealth. And then we can write checks to charity and everybody will say you're a good family. The greatest act of charity is not the checks we write. The greatest act of charity is how we treat the people we have the privilege of leading. We need the charities in this world to heal the brokenness we create from management. So again, what was I not taught? I was never taught how to inspire people to share their gifts with us, okay? I was never taught. And I was never taught how to care. When Bernie Sanders was running as a possible presidential candidate, he talked a lot about socialism. And the young people actually showed a great deal of interest in socialism in our country. So the CEO Roundtable, America's top CEOs, came out with a statement. In defense of free enterprise, we need to think about more than just the shareholders. I know some of these gentlemen. They're really fine, good Christian family members, gentlemen. The bad news is they have no idea how to care. Okay? They were never taught to care. Their boards don't know how to steward care. It is about organic growth, EBITDA, market share, all the factors that create financial success. I tell our people around the world, we have 12,000 people. We're actually the combination of 130 acquisitions around the world, never sold a company. Cynthia and I have 6 kids and 20 grandkids. We don't sell our kids, we don't sell our grandkids, and we don't sell our companies. Okay? I might like to sell a couple of my kids occasionally, but I haven't yet done that. A leader's responsibility, your responsibility leading an organization, is to make sure those people in your care have a grounded sense of hope for the future. Most people live in fear of being laid off, downsized, right-sized. How can you raise a family, decide to bring children into this world, buy a home, if you're going to walk in one day and be told, sorry, didn't make EBITDA this month, bank covenant's going to let you go. A lot of people say it's about getting the right people on the bus. I say it's about building a safe bus, which is your business model. And then drivers who are your leaders who know where they're going and how to drive that bus safely. And then anybody that gets on the bus is going to be fine. That is your single responsibility. The company, I stepped out of Pricewaterhouse in 1969 to join the family business. It was about $18 million, pretty much broken, 100-year-old business. Long journey that looked like this. It didn't look like this. A lot of mistakes early on. I survived my mistakes. And today we're a $3.7 billion company from China to India. We primarily make capital equipment. We serve major corporations in the world with consulting services and big equipment. We have big plants in Michigan, PCMC in Wisconsin, Green Bay, Wisconsin. And so, again, we are mainly big capital equipment. But our share price has gone up 14% a year, compounded for 25 years. Now you say, how does a privately held company have a share price? We're a family-owned company, and a lot of our team members have stock. But we have a market-simulated share price, and we're trading at about a 9 PE right now. okay, even though we're privately held. It helps us have transactions with investors. So Warren Buffett, in that same period of time that our share price has gone up 14%, has gone up 9.6. My point to you is not that we make a lot of money. My point to you is you can create human value and economic value in harmony. They're not in disharmony. So let me take you through my journey to truly human leadership from management. It's around people, purpose, and performance. And the first word is people. Your first responsibility is to the people that you invite into your organization, that give them a sense of purpose, to share their gifts, and go home at night feeling valued. Around a purpose that inspires them, so they share their gifts with you. And then you have to create value. If your organization is not creating value in alignment with your capital sources, you're going to hurt people. You've got to create value. You cannot be good to your people with a poor business model, and you're going to hurt people. So people, purpose, and performance, not 2 out of 3, 3 out of 3. When Harvard wrote the case study on our culture about 6 years ago, they invited me up to an international seminar they had from global leaders. And they spent the night before studying our case, came in and were discussing it for about an hour at the class. And I was invited to sit in the auditorium, never thinking I was going to say anything. I just observed it. After an hour discussion, the MBA professor, Jan Rifkin at Harvard, said, is Barry-Wehmiller successful because of its culture or its business strategy? More successful, which is more important? And then these 160 global executives voted. 75% voted we're successful because of our culture. Jan Rifkin looked over to me at the side and said, Bob, do you want to comment? Well, I'd never given an ounce of thought. And I stood up in front of them, came up and I said, I understand why you think it's our culture, because the case is a lot about our culture of caring. But the foundation of our success is a business model I designed in 1988. And I said, it's like Ferrari building the ultimate high-performance engine. If you put 85 octane fuel in a Ferrari engine, it'll start, it'll go down the road, probably won't win races. But if you put 91 octane fuel in that engine, it'll probably win races. It'll perform to the potential the engineers designed it to. But you can't put premium fuel in a Toyota and race a Ferrari. Culture, so our company was doing well with my business model, but when we had a series of revelations that I'll walk you through, and we embraced truly human leadership, we put 91 octane fuel in an engine that was capable of fighting, and we've outperformed Warren Buffett. You don't do it to create value. You do it out of responsibility for the people whose lives are entrusted to you. So again, it's a combination of a strong business model and a culture. My revelations, the first revelation was in 1997 when I bought a company in South Carolina. And I walked into the lunchroom to have a cup of coffee before I started. A company I'd paid about $24 million for, a $55 million company. And it was March of 97, and you know what everybody does in South Carolina in March? It's March Madness. So all the people were standing in the lunchroom talking about which college team won, how much they won in the office pool, and having fun. The closer it got to 8 o'clock, you could just see the fun go out of their body. And I said to myself, in hindsight, why do people leave work to have fun? Why can't we have fun at work? That's when people express their gifts. So I walked into the customer service team, and I said, I got an idea. This is a $21 million product line out of $55 million. Said, whoever sells the most parts wins each week, $100. And if the team makes a team goal, the team makes $100. They said, what? We can't do that. And I said, yeah, you can. All I wanted to do was have fun. Had no idea, never studied it, never tried it. It was because I watched people do March Madness. Came back a month later, well, actually a quarter later. Revenue went up 20% and joy went up 1,000%. Why? Because people started having fun winning in line with creating value. Example, one person said to me, you know, Mr. Chapman, I always thought I was nice to the customer, but now I'm really nice to the customer because I want to win, okay? I can't make stuff like that up. It's amazing what they said. So anyway, why can't business be fun? We learned from that. second, Episcopalians were at church. My mentor was the rector of our church. And one day after the sermon, I looked at my wife and I said, Cynthia, Ed's only got us for 1 hour a week. We have people for 40 hours a week. We are 40 times more powerful to impact people's lives than our church. As I walked out of the church that day, I said, business could be the most powerful force for good in the world if we simply cared about the people. We have the privilege to lead. And then the one that people remember the most is the wedding story. I was at the wedding of my friend, and he was walking his daughter down the aisle, and I saw everybody ooh and ah, how precious she looked, how handsome the young man was. As they got to the altar, he said, her mother and I give our daughter to be wed to this young man. And my mind again went to a different place, and I said, oh my God, all 12,000 people that work for us around the world are just like that young man and young lady. They're somebody's precious child. So the lens through which I saw people, prior to that wedding, I saw people as a function for my success. That day at the wedding, the lens was reversed, and I saw people as somebody's precious child. When you look at the people that you have the privilege of leading, not as a function for your success, but as somebody's precious child, it changes everything. So anyway, those three revelations created a totally different image of me, and I started seeing people not as adults, but as somebody's child. And our expression was, we are going to measure success by the way we touch the lives of people. So leadership is a stewardship of the lives entrusted to you. It is not a job. It is a profound sense of responsibility. And my point to you is we can create economic and human value and harmony. They're not in disharmony. And leaders give those in their span of care a grounded sense of hope for the future. The key is a powerful combination, as I said, of a robust business model and a culture of caring around people, purpose, and performance, and it takes skills and courage to care. So we had no idea what we were creating because it was this evolution of revelations. And a guy named Simon Sinek came in because he had heard about it. We had no idea what we had. He started interviewing our people, and he said, I'm no longer a nutty idealist. I've just seen what I dream of. And if it exists, it must be possible. Raj Sisodia, my co-author, came in and said, who wrote the book on conscious capitalism, which is Whole Foods, and he said, I always thought it was about the product. Now I think it's about the people. I'd say to you in this group, a guy named Bill Urey, a world peace negotiator, he came in, spent 2 days talking to our people, and he said he saw the answer to world peace. I said, Bill, you came to manufacturing plants, and you saw the answer to world peace? He said, I saw a place, Bob, where people care for each other. Okay, remember, we started a university to teach people how to move from management to leadership. And the three things we taught them were empathetic listening, the greatest of all human skills that we don't teach in our universities or schools. We teach speech and debate, but we don't teach listening. So and we teach recognition and celebration. Cynthia and I learned in raising 6 kids, if you don't compliment them 5 times more than you suggest things they could do better, it's hard on them. Guess what? Adults are identical. I had an event yesterday in our South Carolina plant where we recognized a lady in our storeroom department for her goodness. And we surprised her with her 2 daughters, her son, and her husband coming in. You should have seen the tears in the 220 people as this lady was recognized for her goodness, not her years of service, not her achievements, and she was nominated by her peers. So we spend a lot of time focusing on the goodness of people. There's an old expression, shine a light in your organization, look for the goodness and hold it up and say thank you in thoughtful, timely, appropriate ways. Because when we leave work, we're inundated with the brokenness of work, with the media. So again, and one more, again, one of the things I want you to walk away with, the single most important thing we do in transforming managers into leaders is to teach them how to listen with empathy, not judgment, not to debate, but to validate the worth of others. It is the most powerful human skill. We were profoundly touched that the people, 12,000 people, is the single most important thing. And Bill Urey, the world peace negotiator, said, think of the issues we have between Putin right now and China and the Democrats and Republicans and conservatives. Bill Urey said, I've been going to global peace talks for 30 years, and I now realize that's just what they are. They're global peace talks. The problem is we don't know how to listen. I'm right and you're wrong. That's what we teach people. We don't teach them to care for others. We don't teach them to listen to others. Simon Sinek has a great expression because he works with the military and he studies us. He wrote the foreword to my book. Think of this. In the military, we honor those who give of themselves in service of others. And in business, we give bonuses to people who sacrifice others in service of themselves. Microsoft lays off 10,000 people. Share price goes up, incentives go up. It's broken. Their share price should have gone down because they hurt 10,000 people. But the public and the investing public said, good job. Despite 10,000 people, what if those were one of your kids who joined an honorable organization only to be told, we don't need you? We're taught in business, it's just things we do. We lay off people, we fire people. You know where firing came from? The French firing squad. Why do we use the word firing in business? It's murder. And if you study psychological studies, people get laid off. It's a horrible day in their life to walk back to their family and say, I don't know what we're going to do. So anyway, we can learn to care, and we are doing that. So in the book, we were compelled to write the book because people said, you've got to share this with the world, Bob. You've got to share this. So we wrote the book. It's topped 90,000 copies in 7 languages. The Harvard case study has been used by 80 universities from Japan to India. And I'm an accountant from North St. Louis. This message is not my message. I am simply the deliverer to you. And again, we are out. We have a leadership institute. So we have our internal university where we teach around the world people to become leaders. Grown men and women cry in the class because they realize unintentionally they've hurt the very people that they've been working with and their families. And again, as I said, 90% of the feedback we get is how it affects their marriage and their relationship with their kids when we teach them to be leaders. And what we realize is, why do we have to fix adults? Why is there a need for us? Because our education system does not teach us the skills of caring. It teaches us how to get a job, to make good money. And so we are working in again, internal university, we're working externally with our Leadership Institute, and we're now working with several private schools. Tomorrow morning, I'll be in Salt Lake City giving a speech to the nation's top headmasters of private schools on the need to transform education, to teach human skills along with academic skills. So, I'm going to leave you with this thought. I know we've done the best we can with what we know, but I hope I've given you a vision of a better world, that we could heal this brokenness that we're feeling every day. We don't need to worry about who's president of the United States, who's mayor, who's governor. We need to learn about what we can do to send those people home that we have the privilege of leading, knowing that they matter, and we can heal the brokenness of the world. Thank you very much.
Don't forget to find us and connect on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram at Barry-Wehmiller. And you'll find more podcasts, articles, and videos at trulyhumanleadership.com. I'm Brent Stewart. Thanks for listening.